Once, in a time long past, a great king ruled a prosperous land. His court was filled with scholars and warriors, but among them one man stood out. His minister, a calm, wise soul who carried a peculiar belief. He would often say with quiet confidence, "Whatever happens, happens for good." It was a phrase he held close to his heart, repeating it with unshakable faith, regardless of the situation. The king, though fond of him, sometimes found this saying too simplistic, too blind to reality. One day the king sat quietly in his chamber, cleaning his sword, admiring its sharpness and design. The minister, as usual, was beside him, offering company and conversation. But in a moment of distraction, the sword slipped from the king's hands and struck his foot. Blood stained the floor as the king cried out in pain. His toe had been severed. Gripping his foot, eyes wide with agony, he looked at his minister, expecting sympathy or outrage, but the minister, with his usual calmness, merely said, "Whatever happens, happens for good." The king's face darkened with fury. How could this be good? He had just lost a toe. How could someone say such a thing in this moment? In a fit of rage, he ordered the minister to be thrown into prison. Guards came swiftly, but as they led the minister away, he turned once more to the king and said with a peaceful smile, "Whatever happens, happens for good." The king was stunned. Even in chains, the man was unshaken. Weeks turned into months. The king's foot healed, though the missing toe was a daily reminder of the incident. Life went on until one morning, driven by restlessness, the king decided to go hunting. Accompanied by his guards, he rode into the wilderness, chasing the thrill of the chase. Deep into the forest, he spotted a swift deer and, spurred by excitement, galloped after it, leaving his soldiers behind. The deer vanished, and when the king finally stopped, he realized he was utterly lost. The forest was thick, unfamiliar, and silent. He wandered, hoping to retrace his steps, but instead found himself surrounded by a group of forest-dwelling tribals. These people, isolated from the kingdom's reach, had no idea who he was. To them, he was just a stranger, perfect for their sacred ritual. They captured him, tied his hands, and dragged him to their village, where the air buzzed with celebration. Drums echoed through the trees, fires were lit, and chants filled the sky. They were preparing to offer him as a human sacrifice to their deity. The king pleaded, shouted, begged for mercy, but no one understood his language. They bathed him, dressed him in ceremonial robes, placed garlands around his neck, and prepared the altar. Just as the final rituals began and the knife gleamed in the firelight, the tribal chief noticed something. One of the king's toes was missing. He halted everything, raised his hand, and declared that the sacrifice could not proceed. The man was incomplete. Their tradition forbade offering a flawed body to the deity. It would bring misfortune, not favor. Disappointed but bound by their laws, they released the king and let him go. With his heart pounding, the king stumbled through the forest until he found his guards. Back in the safety of his palace, he was overcome with realization. That cursed day, when he had cursed the accident, had actually saved his life. If his toe hadn't been cut, he would have died that very day. The minister, he thought, had been right all along. Without delay, he ordered the minister's release. The man, ever serene, returned to the court. The king embraced him and apologized with deep sincerity. He confessed that he finally understood the truth behind those words. But one question lingered. "Your wisdom saved my life," the king said, But what about you? You spent 2 months locked away. What good did that bring you? The minister smiled gently and replied, "My king, had I not been in prison, I would have accompanied you that day into the forest, as I always do. The tribals would have spared you, thanks to your missing toe, but I have no such wound. My body is whole. They would have taken me instead. So even my imprisonment, harsh as it seemed, was a blessing in disguise. It saved my life just as surely as your injury saved yours." The king sat in silence, humbled by the twist of fate. It dawned on him how easily one judges a situation as misfortune, when in truth it could be the very thing that steers life away from disaster. In our own lives, we too encounter moments that feel unfair, painful, or unjust. Times when it seems everything is falling apart and nothing makes sense. We ask why, we question fate, we mourn the timing, the missed opportunity, the sudden loss. But with time, a strange clarity often arrives. What once felt like a tragedy begins to look like a turning point. A job we lost opened the door to a better one. A relationship that ended made room for a healthier, more meaningful connection. A failure humbled us and taught us lessons no success ever could. It's human nature to measure life in the moment, to use our limited understanding as the lens through which we judge what's good or bad. But life is not just the present. It is a long, unfolding journey where every step, even the painful ones, has a purpose. The universe, after all, is not designed to work against us. It flows according to a deeper rhythm, guided by karma, by cause and effect. When sorrow arrives, it may be the balance of an old account. When things are taken from us, it could be the start of something greater. We can't always see it right away, but time reveals what our mind cannot. Our role is not to understand every twist, but to trust that there is meaning in the madness, wisdom in the wounds, and that nature never makes mistakes. So even in your darkest moments, when life seems cruel, when you feel abandoned or broken, hold on to this truth. Perhaps what feels like an ending is simply life's way of redirecting you. Maybe what feels like loss is actually protection. Maybe what's falling apart is just clearing space for what's meant to be. And in those times, if you can find the strength, whisper to yourself what the minister once said with quiet certainty: "Whatever happens, happens for good." And so when we pause and look back, the pieces start to make sense. The delays, the detours, the disappointments, each carried something hidden within them. Sometimes they protected us, sometimes they prepared us, and sometimes they simply pushed us in a direction we never would have chosen ourselves, but needed more than we knew. Life doesn't always reveal its reasons right away, but that doesn't mean there isn't one. So when things don't go your way, when you're hurt or confused or lost, just take a breath. There may come a day when you'll look back at this very moment and smile, realizing that even this was a part of something good.